Hello everyone, my name is Hristina Crenn. I am originally from Macedonia. I am currently living in Istanbul and I'm a student at Sorbonne University of Law, and also I'm studying a double major, actually two bachelor's degree at Ibn Haldun University in Turkey, in Istanbul, where I study a Bachelor of History and a Bachelor of Political Science and International Relations. In France, I study in French, here in English, and I could have the opportunity to learn a little bit of Ottoman Turkish, Arabic, Persian, Hebrew, etc. Therefore, this multidisciplinary education helped me to pave the way a little bit through the sciences and explore more the subjects and the concepts and the notion not only from a legal perspective, what I'm trained for, but also from basically historical and political science perspective. Therefore, today I have the privilege and honor to talk about my topic, which is entitled The Difference Between Women's Rights and Feminism. Could you please allow me to share the screen? Hello? All right. Well, here is my presentation. As I know that we're limited up to 12 minutes, I'll be trying to be as brief as possible. Well, why I chose this topic initially? I chose this topic because I have been writing papers for other journals about the French way, the French type of feminism, European type of feminism. But once I asked myself, like, what is the main difference between women's rights and feminism? So I sort of decided to shape the topic of this paper or of this presentation in this way, just to research more and to understand more the difference that is crucial in my opinion. So basically, I would like to emphasize that feminism emerged as a social phenomenon, while from the other side, in this perspective, we're analyzing not only the notion of womanhood, but also the notion of manhood, their characteristics and contradictions, as well the status of the patriarchy as part of the social phenomenon, and the woman's inferiority as also part of that social circular way of shaping and forming the status of the woman in the society. Well, I would like to make the connection with some historical examples of liberal feminism, Marxist or communist way of feminism, the multiracial feminism, and basically the postmodern or post-constructivist feminism. I am not aiming to analyze in deep all of these types of feminism, but to make a comparative research about the basically the essence of my topic, which I think is crucial when we are analyzing especially the social phenomenon of feminism, or where feminism emerged and how. Well, I think that personally think that the main difference between women's rights and feminism is that feminism, as I said, is a social phenomenon, while women's rights is a legal category, and that is the main difference or distinctions. Even though they have similitudes, they have also differences in terms of how do we categorize them legally. For instance, while we study law, we do not talk about feminism, we talk about women's rights. But when we study sociology or philosophy, we study about feminism, also political science. Therefore, I believe that somewhere in the basically after the French Revolution, there was one declaration that basically marked or shaped the French way of feminism, which was the Universal Declaration of the Woman and the Female Citizen, that was basically promulgated and drafted in 1791 by Olympe de Gouges. And one particular verse of this declaration is the Tocsin of Reason, referring to the power of the superiority of the patriarchy. Therefore, we are having here a declaration, a female declaration, that is basically the copy or the equivalent of the Universal Declaration of the man and the citizen. Therefore, Olympe de Gouges, a French prominent woman of letters, is arguing that the initial declaration that was basically promulgated in 1789, in the aftermath of the French Revolution, is basically only referring the status of man and is discriminating the social status of woman. Therefore, 2 years later, in 1791, she decided to create a female declaration. And she's asking men in this declaration, men, are you capable of being just? Therefore, justice is not included only in the sphere of the patriarchy as a social phenomenon, but also is reflecting the existence of the woman as subjects, as primordial subjects of the society. Therefore, in my opinion, to some extent, the French Revolution was also a female revolution. Why I say this? Because the Women's March that occurred on 5th of March 1789, that was led actually by the ladies of the Third Estate. The Third Estate in the time of France or of the French absolutism were the people who were living at the margins of the society. The First and Second Estate was endowed with the members of the nobility. Therefore, the Third Estate was the one who was deprived of human rights. Therefore, the woman, basically in this period, asked Marie Antoinette, who was the last queen of France, asked her why the price of bread is so high. So she answered them in such a rude way, saying, so let them eat cake, because the cake was cheaper than the piece of bread. Therefore, in my opinion, feminism discusses the social questions of women's subjugation, not only their social status, but also it reflected this to an ideology. To some extent, feminism became an ideology, and it is nowadays. Therefore, it is important to mention that from a sociological perspective of view, as feminism also studies the influence of cultural traditions and the centurial status quo regarding women's perception or subjugation in the society. Well, the notion of womanhood, in my opinion, is a natural prerogative that I'm stating here that is actually provoked the birth of feminism. Not only as a social theory, but also as a human concept of thought. Therefore, this concept of thought is making feminism not only as to be an ideology, but also a veritable science of thought by its codification. Therefore, over time, we know that always when we study law, basically we know that feminism and women's rights is all about combating the effects of the superiority of the patriarchy and eradicating the social status of women's inferiority. Even though this might sound descriptive at the beginning, it's so important and relevant to mention it because it's exacerbating, to some extent, the flow of feminism and women's rights. Well, I think that the main difference, as I said, between feminism and human rights is the way they are categorized. Feminism is a social question, women's rights is a legal question. Well, I would like to mention the important works of some contemporary women's females who are actually the recent Supreme